Keith here again. Today I'm going to go through my plants for an end of November review. I'm not going to go through everything. With pushing 80 plants, that would just take forever. I did 1 in 3 parts earlier in the year. It took about an hour and a half. I don't think any of you is going to want to sit through that lot again. So what I'm going to do is concentrate on the plants, for the most part at least, which are either in spike or in flower, or something which I think, as well as those, anything I think has got a little bit of interest. I'm going to start with the last of the peonies that needs to be unpotted. Now I bought this one at RHS Chatsworth on the 6th of June, so it's very, very late because it was in flower then. There were several bulbs in the pot, but only one flower. There seemed to be some smaller ones that had been stuck in there. So this was outside with the others. It developed as the others did, but it was always behind. So when I brought the others inside, because the weather was turning cold, I brought this into the conservatory and let it grow on for a bit. And then I thought it was time to get it to rest, otherwise it wasn't going to get one, and if they don't rest they don't flower very well. So I put it in the garage where it was much cooler, not quite so much light, and the leaves have all died and the ones on the big bulbs have come off. These on the smaller bulbs now are dead. That one's just come off in my hand. So these are ready for taking off to go into the fridge with the others. So that's the first thing. That's a project to be done when I get a minute. Nothing very desperate about that. The first of the group that I want to discuss in terms of flowering plants are my cattleyas. I've only got 2, basically because I wasn't sure if I could reflower them. This is the first one I got. I bought it at RHS Wisley at the end of June 2018. And I bought it simply because it was a cattleya. I think there are other ones that are prettier. This is absolutely white. There's nothing to relieve that white except for a tiny trace of colour, a little touch of yellow in the throat. But there really isn't anything very much in there at all. It's got a very long, narrow trumpet, which to me suggests it's got some Laelia in its ancestry, but it's really a complete no ID. It throws out happy sap like it's going out of style. I mean, you've only got to touch it almost anywhere and your fingers are absolutely gummed up. It's very pretty in its simplicity though. I think you'd all agree with that. It's been very frustrating. It's grown ever so well. It put out 3 new growths on the lead that's flowered. It put out 3 bigger growths on the one that hasn't. And it's quite an odd one. This one has come straight out of a unifoliate cane, no sheath. I don't know how well you're going to see it, but here, which is one of the ones that was in flower when I bought it, bifoliate cane with a sheath. So there's obviously something in the genetics that makes it do that. But it's grown really nice canes that haven't flowered until this one. And I was getting ready to say, well, okay, I can't do anything with this, it can go. And at long last, it's pushed out these 2 flowers, which has pleased me now because it proves I can actually keep cattleya types. The other one, I got a little bit later, a few months later, at an East Midlands Orchid Society meeting. This is At the time it was called Leliocattleya Secret Love, it's now Cattleyanthe Secret Love. Another one that doesn't seem to be able to make its mind up whether it's bifoliate or unifoliate, but it seems to flower very easily. It flowered for me once this year already, although one of the flowers was deformed. It threw up another new growth, which is this one, and it's been growing really well. Despite the time of year, it's not quite as good as the previous one. Not yet. That's considerably taller. That's that one. But I picked it up the other day to get it against the light. Unfortunately, I can't show you, but we've got flower buds inside this sheath. So we're going to get another unifoliate cane with flowers, and then obviously we shall see whether it's a duff plant that will end up under the hedge, or whether it's something I can live with and work with. Okay, next group. These are the Oncidium Alliance. I haven't got any species Oncidiums, only hybrids. This is, of course, everybody's favourite, Shaleb Tolkien. A big plant. They always do that because they're a very vigorous beast. Beautiful flowers. I think they're just mind-blowing. But then again, I like all brassica types. So this one I bought last year from Lawrence Hobbs at the RHS Tatton Park Flower Show. It's grown extremely well. This is the second spike of this particular flowering. It's the third spike this year. The other one died and I've cut it off. This one's been open about 5 weeks, so I think that's going to start falling over before very much longer, so I'm just going to try and enjoy it while I can. No sign of much by way of new growths yet, but I'm sure that will come. It's getting ready for a repot, although I need some advice really on what to do, because it's quite a lump, and it's whether I pot it up again and really go for a specimen. I would say that a specimen Shaleb Tolkien with 3 or 4 spikes would be something that you would really want to see. And then we've got this one, which I always say is may or may not be Sturbic Red. I say may or may not be. The company that supplied the plant, which was Inca, called it Sturbic Red. It's certainly a Sturbic of some sort. Just looking at the patterning on the flower. It's in that family. Rachel Davenport at Garden at Duenza has got one which is much redder, but one like this. So whether it's just a variation within amongst that, I don't know. This is the one that had the odd new growth, which now has turned into 2. They're both growing. One is growing slightly more than the other. I was hoping for 3, but one of them's just stopped. So that's there. So we've got we've had 2 flowers. There was one that was on when I bought it in June this year. This one it's put up. I'm hoping this is going to last a while, because it took a very long time for them to open, and in fact they're still opening, as you can see. So hopefully, with it being quite cool at this time of year, they're going to last for a bit. A very pretty plant. Let's put them back. Oh, this is perhaps not the prettiest of the Oncidium tribe. It's one that I think is an Oncostili wildcat, possibly rainbows. It's the closest one I could find. It's been open for a long time now. Again, 6 or 7 weeks, because I think it was trying to open before we went on holiday in the middle of October, and it's now the end of November. So it's been on the go a while, and the flowers are starting to fade, but they're all still open. Oh no, there's one there that's gone. Look, that's the first one. So that's the first one that's gone. So yeah, it's starting to go. I'm not surprised. As I say, it's been around for quite a long time. There's no signs yet of new growths, but I'm quite content that this is going to carry on growing. What's really nice about that one is I bought it as a rescue plant in June last year. I bought that and a Zygopetalum, which is out of flower at the moment, both of them for £1.50 because they were on the scrap desk at Dobby's Garden Centre, looking a real mess. And I've pulled both of them round and rebloomed them, so obviously I'm very pleased. Now, talking about Zygopetalums, this is a much more recent purchase. This is Zygonicea Rhine Blue Angel. I bought it from Burnham's in July. Nice plant, it's growing well. I'm very pleased with what it's doing. It's much more slender than my other Zygopetalum. The bulbs are quite tall, they're quite slender. That's the oldest one, and that's still not massive. And we all know Zygopetalums flower on immature bulbs, but that, try and get it so you can see it, this is barely swelling at the base, but we've got a flower spike. Yes, it's only got one flower on it, apparently, but it didn't have many more on a spike when I bought it, so I'm just quite pleased with that one. It's an unusual flower. It's one reason why I got it. Burnham's, when I visited the nursery, had several possible zygotes. Some of them were more conventional than that, and my other one looks rather after that fashion, so I went with that. My White Twinkle, I've only got 2. Bought them at the East Midlands Orchid Society show from Lawrence Hobbs in March, out of flower. Got them cheap. This one, although I didn't realise it at the time, was in a bit of a state. The pseudo bulbs were flat, and I thought, because that's how they all looked, that was how they were. Every bulb was just like a kipper. So I repotted it, and it's come on. It's put up about 8 or 9 new growths. We've got 6 spikes, although one of them's not very clever. It's not in flower yet, but I don't think it's going to be very long. We're starting to see a little bit of swelling and shapes developing in the buds. So it's not going to be very long, and it's going to be really quite nice. It's going to need another repot because that pot is absolutely bang full. And this is the red one, bought at the same time. It just says Twinkle Red. I don't know. There's a Red Fantasy. I don't know if it's that one or whether it's just, if red is something different again, I don't know that much about twinkles other than they are a very pretty little flower. I think it's quite interesting that if you look at the two spikes, the flowers aren't quite the same. On this one, where my hand's behind, where are we? There. The flowers have quite a yellow looking, oh dear, okay, right in a minute. The flowers have got quite a yellow tinge to the lip, and on this one it's darker, but it does fade a bit. They're starting to fade back, so it's very difficult to say exactly what this one is. There's a little bit of scent. It's not very strong, but we've had some really bad weather last, I don't know, 10 days. It's been very dark and dismal and what have you. Oh, the next few days it's going to be much brighter but much colder, so it'll be very interesting to see how the scent develops now that it's going to get a bit more sunshine. A couple of my paphs, I've only got two that are in spike, neither in flower. This one is Maudii. You can see the flower here. This just seems to be an absolute doddle to grow. Sits on a windowsill facing northwest. Grows nice and steadily. It's in a fairly water retentive medium, but it's got more new fans that haven't, quite a lot more, about 3 or 4 new fans that haven't flowered yet. So there's a possibility of getting more flowers, but I'll settle for the one for now and get more later. As I say, an absolute doddle to keep, really are. So is this one, if only it wasn't so flaming big. This is the so-called American hybrid. It's a very complex hybrid as I understand it. The leaves are quite narrow. Some people go at the bulldog paphs, and now Head of Head Orchids hates these things, perhaps because they're a bit too easy to grow, I don't know. But it was the first one I bought. I bought this at Kew when we went one year to have a look at the orchid festival that they do every year. And it was something different to the Phalaenopsis that I'd got. And it was a bit more expensive than those, very different looking. It's been a very reliable grower, a reliable flowerer. It's very obviously got 2 ends now, and we've got quite a lot, probably 1.5 inches, 35mm of dead space where the old fans, the original fans have died, and we've got new fans at both ends. And we've got this flower spike which is well developed, and down in here that is another off the other end of the plant. So this is going to be nice, but it's what do I do about it? I mean, the pot's got some very good roots all the way down into the pot, right down to the bottom. You can see on this side, look. So it's a plant that's absolutely thriving. There's room for it to grow a bit yet. The compost doesn't smell too bad, so this one can sit where it is, I think, for at least another 6 or 8 months, and then we'll see how we go after that. But again, if you're looking to get into paphs, the American hybrid and Maudii really are as easy as they can get. My others are species, and they are much slower growers, so we'll we'll see how we go on with those. I've not managed to reflower any of them yet, but they're sitting there in the same way, and they're not doing too badly. They're not pulling any trees up, but they don't grow at a terrific rate. You're not going to see anything happen very fast with a path, but they're lovely while they're out, and the flowers last quite a long time. Right, one that I am very, very pleased with. This is Vanda Apricot Brandy. I keep this, as you can see, in a glass jar. I can't keep it with dangly roots. I haven't got anything where I can sensibly do that. So let me adjust the angle a little bit, if you'll excuse me, and let's centre it a little bit better. There we go. I'd always fought shy of Vandas in general because of this thing about they have to have the roots exposed. And I talked to somebody at the East Midlands Orchid Society show who only keeps them in glass jars, and he said it was fine. You can water them, much less frequently because the jar helps keep the humidity in. Yes, you've still got to water these regularly. This is ready for doing again, and what I do is I fill it to the brim and leave it for a couple of hours, siphon it off, and that's it. In the summer for a couple of days, now probably 3 to 4 days. It was definitely twice a week. Now it's in flower, it seems to be using more, the roots are going grey, which is the point I'm looking for. The roots go grey much quicker. So basically I look at this a bit like a Phalaenopsis. If the roots are grey, it needs watering. So I shall do that. We're going out fairly shortly, and we won't be back for those couple of hours, so it's an ideal opportunity to do that and kill the proverbial 2 birds with 1 stone. I don't know if anybody's going to be very interested in seeing me pouring water into this glass jar. It always fascinates me how the colour of the root development, of course, changes colour really quickly and turns green. I'm using Orchid Focus. I've used it for a long time. And it seems to do well for all of my plants. It takes about 4 litres to fill this jar. So I've got jars and jars of this stuff made up to look after this one. And it's always surprising, not so much with these, because you can't, it's only the roots that will take it up. But if I, certainly even with this, if I fill it to the brim, which I usually do, give it 2 or 3 hours, and there'll be, I don't know, 3 or 4 millimetres, 1/8 of an inch change in the level. So that's brimmed it, and I shall leave that now until we get back and siphon it back out again. We've got these roots out the back to try and, can't possibly get those inside the jar, they would just simply smash. So what I tend to do with those is you spray them with water or occasionally with orchid mist, the made up fertiliser in a spray bottle, just to keep them alive. I was quite interested with these things that the growing tips come and go. In the summer the growing tips re-emerge and the roots will extend. Now the growing tips have all pulled back into the end of the root. Curious sort of a feature. Anyway, that's another aspect to it. Okay, so this has been in soak for nearly 3 hours. The roots in the jar are now green. I'll get it in the right place in a minute. The roots in the jar have turned green. And I've sprayed the roots that are outside the jar. I'm having to be a bit careful because there's a bracing bar in the top of the conservatory. So we've got these roots, and these have been sprayed and they're turning green. But the interesting thing for me is this section here goes dark green, even though it's out of the jar, because you've got a root that comes off it here and goes down into the jar, and that obviously brings fluid up and then stores in that as well. So that's the Vanda. Now we'll have a look at the non-noble A dendrobiums. The Dendrobium phalaenopsis types, I suppose you could call them generally, and the Kingianum types as I've got. This is Sarnuk Polar Fire, a well-known hybrid. Bought that as a cheapo. Got it for £4. Just after Christmas. It was, obviously bought in by the garden centre as a Christmas offering. Hadn't gone. It's done quite well. That was the original pseudo bulb that flowered last year. This cane is much bigger. It's not as thick, but it's much bigger. But it can certainly keep growing for a while. There's no signs of any new growth yet. We've got a spike with 5 buds on. That one, the bottom one, is just starting to colour. Might you see if I put my hand at the back so it'll focus on it. So yeah, I'm just waiting for that to sort itself out. Another Sarnuk one, again another very well known hybrid. This is Thailand Black. Again 5 buds on here. It just will not open. It's starting to. These are actually starting to open, but desperately slowly, and I'm not really sure why. It's certainly done very well. That's the old cane that it came with. This new cane is getting on for twice the size. Now this was 2 plants in the same pot. The second one hasn't tried to flower this time. It's got a new growth coming, and that'll make a nice plant for somebody else. And this is a no ID one that I am a lot less proud of. I bought this in the middle of last year. It's similar to Polar Fire, but it's more lilac than purple. I messed it up. Stand back a little bit here, chance to see it. I messed up with it. It was a nice big bushy plant. I tried to repot it, got it hopelessly wrong, got it much too high, probably got it in the wrong media altogether, and it struggled. And I've ended up with this one and about 3 or 4 other bits of it in different pots, and there's none of them doing fantastically well. They're all on the right side now, thank goodness, but they're not exactly the happiest of plants. I'm not sure why this one's flowering and the others aren't, but we have got 2 new growths here that are looking quite reasonable, and in fact one of them is going to flower. This one has got a bud. I don't know if you can see right down in the bottom of there. I'm struggling to see the screen because of the reflections. Let's try and get it there. There we are. Oh, you can see it, but somewhere down in the bottom of that, between those top 2 leaves, there's another flower spike. So I'm going to end up with at least 1 plant out of that one. And then we've got another couple of plants. 2 Berryodas again out of the same pot, turned into 2 plants when I repotted it. Did a better job with these, but typical dendrobiums, they are extremely unstable. And this one has been a pain to keep upright. You can see the back of the plant is a long way up, and it possibly wants yet another go, but it is putting roots out, and they are going down into the pot, and it's flowering quite nicely, and it's growing okay, so we'll see what that does next year. This one has done better. It's better in the pot. Masses and masses and masses of roots in there. Doing well, lots of new root tips in here, and there. So we've got lots of roots coming from here and there. I was a little bit worried about these because they weren't pushing out good new growths. They were pushing out so far and aborting. This one finally has pushed up a new growth here that is doing something. There's another one here which is growing out, and one there which is growing out. So this one, I think, isn't going to give me anything to worry about. Okay, this is probably not the greatest of news, I've just realised. This is my Psychopsis, which I didn't buy all that long ago. I repotted it. I think I've overdone the moss and it's staying too wet too long. It had 2 new growths. It was trying to grow both of those. One of them now has very clearly failed. That one, that's not going to go anywhere, that isn't. The other one, at the moment, is still alright, so I'll keep my fingers crossed. The spike on these is supposed to be the special part, and I've had problems with this. I'm not sure what's happening. You've got these dried brown sheaths, and there was one on this side that was causing it issues, and I sprayed it and took it off. There was something inside that fell away, and it's left this green sheath there, so all I can do is wait and see what it's doing. They don't like being repotted. Looks like this one's objected more strongly than I expected, but I say that one is not happy, that new growth, unfortunately. That'll have to come off. I'm having problems drying it out. It's in an air cone pot. I think I overdid the moss, so what I'm having to do to try and make sure that it does dry out reasonably quickly is not put much water across it, and I'm not sure that's doing it the best of all, although some roots there look as if they are picking something up, so that's something I've got to very much keep an eye on. I think it's going to be a lot easier to look at these Cymbidiums with the camera handheld. This is one that I bought from Homebase for not a lot of money last year, or very early this year. As usual, when it's on the scrap heap, really horrible state. When I repotted it, the roots were in better condition than you got any right to be, and it's grown very, very well for me this year. It was potted up. I didn't bother taking the old bark off. I hadn't had it on very long. I just lifted it out, put it in another pot and packed it around with some fresh bark. And we've got one spike, so at least I shall know what colour these flowers are. But it has grown very well, and I'm looking forward to seeing this do even better next year. This one, you can see the spike is much further on. This is one that I bought from a garden centre a few weeks before I bought the others. It was just going over, so I got it cheap. I didn't get it dirt cheap. So I know what colour this is. It's sort of a creamy colour with spots on the lip. Quite an attractive plant, really. And that's looking nice. You've got a number of buds there that are starting to develop. This one is the last of the plants that I got, or second of the plants I got from Homebase. It looked as good as the other one when I got it. When I repotted it, I found that I'd left it much too long, and the roots were in a terrible state. So this one hasn't done anything like as well. It's grown, but nothing like as well as the other two have. It has started a flower spike. It's just there, but it hasn't developed much at all yet. As these things flower right the way through to the spring, it's got a chance. We've got a new growth there, of course, and as I was looking at it just now, there's something else down here peeping out. I don't know whether that's going to turn into a new growth or a flower spike. This one, that is almost certainly a new growth, but it's stalled. The flower spikes, when they get to a certain size, around the top of the spike it gets hollow where the buds are beginning to form inside the protective sheath, and that one feels quite solid. So that was probably a new growth, but it's not done anything for months and months and months. So I'll have to wait and see. That's one where I'm not sure how well it's going to do next year, but hopefully we shall get something out of it.